Okay, the video number 5 is about the personal curriculum, or the PC as we call it. Now, by personal curriculum, I don't mean your own personalized monogram copy of the standard curriculum that you're handed as a menu of coming attractions, but a blank slate. You can think of it as an appointment book you can get down at Staples. It's about this large, and you open it up, and there's a page on 2 sides. Is the day. There's morning and afternoon, or it might be just a single page. Yeah, probably a single page would be enough room. And on that is blank with the hours. And you enter, and the students make up their own. Now, as I have described the schools of the future in the previous video, you will remember that this is not a conventional school with just teachers, registered educators, and a standard curriculum, but it's more like a library, a public library, a convention hall. Let's say you go to a trade convention, and you go in the door, and you look down, and there's this vast array of booths and activities and all kinds of people selling their wares. You know, think of it as a state fair where you got all these. We walk down through the mud. There are all these booths with people hawking their wares, from hot sausage sandwiches to maybe handmade jewelry or whatever. But these are, so the personal curriculum is kind of, you can either, when you go to a fair, you don't, let's say you go to a state fair, you don't make a list of what you want to see and where you want to do. You kind of make it a accidental and incidental kind of an experience. I'm trying to think of a word. What is that word? Serendipitous experience, where things just come at you and you experience new things. You say, wow, look at that, look at this. But that type of experience doesn't make for a very efficient one. You might do that in the morning. When you first arrive at the state fair, you walk around the ground, just walk around real quickly, and make a list of the things you want to see. And then you go to the ones that you want to spend some time at, if you were very organized. But who goes to a state fair and does that? I'm trying to illustrate the range of options that are available to students when they are making out their daily personal curriculum. But they don't do it one day at a time. You don't turn the page to Tuesday and say, okay, now what'll I do Tuesday? No. They do it more in a continuous thing. They may say that they want to do this, but it's going to take, maybe it'll take the whole day. And then the question is, do they want to devote the whole day to this one activity? Or do they want to do it for an hour a day? We'll talk about the activities after, the choices they have to make. And in this process, they are really, when they get experienced, they will be looking at this and have ideas of achieving a balance of what they want to experience and learn about. They're not, the academics here is experienced. It's not learned by rote. language is learned by the fact that only correct standard English is allowed to be spoken in the school, which is a very radical notion. And that there's all kinds of math and new words to learn, vocabulary, new words to learn about, to add to your vocabulary, and all sorts of people to meet. Now, there's volunteers, retired airline pilots, and maybe scientists, but they're not all volunteer. They're not all retired older people, older doves like me. They should be in the trade. And where will they schedule to meet these people? Well, they'll either be coming to the school and giving talks or being interviewed. So there'll be a whole list of interesting people that have come to the school and be there, and you sign up for seeing them, and maybe they'll have a limit of 12 people, 12 kids that can sit and talk with them for an hour. And then there will be books to read. There'll be choices, things you can put on they can put on their personal curriculum. There might be a book they want to read, or they might want to learn the multiplication tables. I really got to get down and learn that thing. There may be some textbooks. If textbooks are good because they're linear, they're very highly illustrated to catch the attention of students who would probably rather do something else. But they're still useful. Buy a used one. Don't pay $200 for a textbook. For heaven's sake. Get them for $19.95. And of course, online, there's just an abundance of stuff you can search. You can search for words that it might put. So you get the general idea. There's no shortage of really interesting activities they can do alone. They can do by signing up for a field trip to a hospital to learn all about, going to an operating room and talking to a surgeon. See, these volunteers don't have to totally stop what they're doing and volunteer for the day. They can set aside as part of their daily schedule. I got an hour this afternoon. I've got a bunch of kids coming in, and I'll do that. Now, this, of course, can get pretty complicated. You have all the variables, the limitless amount of activities to sign up for, books to read, and maybe time to be spent reviewing what you did last week and trying to figure out a little more about that was interesting. Oh, wonder this, I wonder that, so you can look it up and they can expand upon it. So this is all very highly computerized. This is not just, this appointment book is actually online and digitally because it have to consider all these variables. Number one, what is the academic level of this? I haven't talked about ages here, but generally we've been talking about the high school level, but I want to emphasize that younger kids are capable of doing a lot more than we give them credit for. And of course it'll vary from one student to another as far as how smart they are and how prepared they are to talk with, to meet a surgeon, what he does for a living, how much money he makes, maybe. But it's all computerized, and you have to coordinate how many people are going to be in what location, and is there space for them? What is the skill and maturity level for the student? That will be all keyed in. Is it going to be an outdoor activity subject to weather, variables of weather? It might be canceled or set off. Will the volunteer, for instance, or the teacher be out for the day or sick or something? That'll change everything. So he'll look on his screen for the morning and say, "Uh-oh, I wanted to go to so-and-so at 11 o'clock. Now I can't." It's blank because it's been rescheduled for such and such day. Let me go down and see. And yes, I see I've been moved to 3 days from now, but at such and such time. So he'll go back. And this, as you can imagine, this involves a heck of a lot more curiosity, creativity, and initiative on the part of students than the boring old standard curriculum, 50-minute classes and lecture teaching, where you just go as a warm body and sit there, and teachers pour this into your mind, and you sit there and you sort of take notes, and you fall asleep, and then you go on. This is all controlled, initialized by the student. This is what we call proactive students, who they are the ones that control. The student is the one that controls what they do every day. Now, if you can wrap your mind around all that, consider the fact that if students are free to do what they want within certain parameters, then they must also have the freedom to make no choice at all, which means doing nothing. Now, students at, let's say, at-risk students or dropouts who are sign up for this school because their parents thinking it'll fix them up, and it will. But this is one of the things: be careful what you wish for, because it really throws the student out into the wilderness with no guidebooks or no direction signs to follow, no being told what to do, what you must do next. Yeah, whatever, okay, I'll do that. But no, it all involves a willing selection and application on the part of the student. Now, to do nothing, what happens when you do nothing? Oh, dearie me. Imagine students in school with nothing to do. Now, a regular school would never do this. Everybody has to be programmed. Every student has to be at a certain place at a certain time, being injected with a certain amount of academic information. But volunteer students, proactive students, learn a lot more efficiently than those that are being force taught. So doing nothing is perfectly okay. Now, in conventional education, there's a tremendous amount of boredom entailed in the whole daily school experience. I mean, you'll ask anybody, any student you know, a recent student, and say, how often were you bored in school? And you'll find that there's an awful lot of them. And that on a national survey I saw once, that was the top complaint students had when asked about their what they didn't like about school. That was all, the top of the list was boredom. Okay, well, if a proactive student is bored, it's their own damn fault. Either that, or they have chosen to do an activity that, when they got there, decided they didn't like at all and wasn't what they wanted to do, and they weren't interested in it. There are you'll want to listen to the video on entitled CCI. I can't remember if it comes before this or after. No, it comes after this one. Creativity, curiosity, and initiative. This is the key that drives learning. So those that have a very low level of curiosity and initiative and creativity. And boy, I've met a lot of teens that are just they just bored out of their skull even when they aren't in school. It's because they're very boring people. They have no interest in anything, and I know a lot of people have no interest, don't have any interest in anything, and consequently they do nothing. Well, if you're that way as a student, you're going to get bored out of your skull, and it's your own damn fault, and you're going to have to sit. If you don't have something scheduled, you sit at your cubicle. Now, if you remember, and when I was talking about the pods, the homerooms for students, they each have their own cubicle with a kind of like a roll-top desk, and when they're not there, they can close it. But when they are not scheduled, when they haven't scheduled themselves to take part in any activity whatsoever, they go to their desk, their pod, and they sit there. Now, in the pod there is no entertainment or diversion devices except maybe some copies of books and things, and they're some of the work they've done, and but they'll just sit there and stare at the wall. If they want to do that all day, if they don't want to do anything, well, they told me I don't have to do anything. Well, I'm going to show them I'm going to do nothing. They get there and do nothing all day. I mean, nothing, just sitting at their seat without being permission to get up and walk around and bother people who are engaged in doing real work. Then so be it. They can sleep. They can put their head on the table. Maybe they have a little pillow there. They can lay their head on. Because teens can get very overtired. There's a lot of study being done about how tired teens get, for instance. Like the fact that they aren't very good first thing in the morning. They got standard schools. You gotta drive yourself out of bed and get to the school bus and get to school at 7:59, so you can be the first class of the day. And all. But really, the school for teens, they should start probably around 8:30, and then work later. And that's why more extended hours in schools are going to be a lot better. But if somebody isn't in the condition to work, to do something, even though maybe they have scheduled something, if they look at it and they say, oh, I feel terrible. I think I'm coming down with a flu or something. Here I am in school and I don't know. Or else maybe they've had a big disagreement with a classmate who is trying to take their girl away from them, or a boy away from them. Then, they'll be very distracted. Maybe you've seen their parents have a big fight the night before or something, or maybe you're worried about being homeless, or there's all kinds of distractions that kids have nowadays. As you well know, life is getting pretty challenging out there. And to go to school and sit down and pay attention to the teacher up front lecturing you on the Second World War, oh God, it's a waste of time. And I'll talk in some future videos about wasted education. Some things things you had to learn that you have absolutely no use for, don't understand, and will never remember or ever visit again. Is that bad? Well, because this is all student-powered, there won't be any of this. Everything will be the response we real need to know. So, if you have any notion that personal curriculum is a vacation from school, a fairyland of teen distraction and wandering around aimlessly. No, this is really intense stuff, and it's very the personal curriculum and the whole process, daily process, is very efficient in that way. Then we'll just keep that in mind. It's very complicated, and you're going to want to learn about academic counselors. You're going to learn, you'll discover about the board, review board that they go to quarterly. And a lot of other stuff. There's a lot to it, and so you have to kind of, if you got questions in your mind, you can't raise your hand and ask me. But just wait, the answer will be coming, and it's a lot to go over. And I'd even suggest reviewing these. If you're really interested, you'll go back and listen to it again so it gets a little clearer in your head. So that's the personal curriculum. And the next subject I think I'll cover is what kind of students, so-called, what kind, which I put in parentheses, in quote, as if there are kinds of students. Well, I guess there are. But what kind will respond to this level of personal responsibility involved and demanded, and which will become totally lost in it. I'll be responding to those questions. I'm not suggesting that any of them will be lost in it, because that's the glory of the kind of schools I propose, because the basic concept I propose will be equally valid for every kind of student, every kind, in every community and in every sociological profile or moment in time, or even nations, because I see this as being fully applicable in all nations. While it won't be applicable to situations where there is a strong religious control being exerted over students. This is no ashram by any means. Anyway, I appreciate your patience in sorting through this pretty radical, crazy stuff, but I hope you'll give it some time and some serious consideration. Thanks a lot.